Thank you. And everybody here, hello. Happy to see so many people sitting here at 6. And we're going to get started quickly because Amol has just given us 30 minutes. And the lady that we are going to start talking to has such an immensely powerful story that time is too short. So let me not waste my time and let me just get started. So, Chetna, in fact, I was so looking forward to talking to you because we've known each other for a while and we share a lot of common passion, including for saris. and for building that financial muscle in women of different categories. So I'm going to start out by asking you to talk a little bit about your backstory. I'm sure some people have heard it. People might have seen you with Amitabh Bachchan on Kaun Banega Crorepati or in various places on YouTube. But I want you to tell us your backstory because I think every generation needs to hear it. And I see a lot of young people here and I'm sure they'll benefit from it. What took you, a Bombay girl, in those days when Bombay really used to be, I'm sorry to say this, but it used to really be a metropolis then. And then you went from here into the hinterland and then kept going deeper in a way. What did that?
Thanks. And I'm just telling audience that you'll see me continuously smiling and all that because Shinjini is such a close friend. So it's always very good to be with you on stage, Shinjini. And thanks, Amol, for getting this an opportunity with a friend being on the stage. Yes, I am. Whenever I introduce myself, I always say like I am a Bombay girl. And when I say I am, what I mean is that when I'm in Mumbai, I go to the days in 1986, where I actually, being a student in Mumbai University, I became a part of Jayaprakash Narayan's movement. And at that time, Jayaprakash Narayan, after emergency, after Janata government also, he was moving from university to university, appealing young students that you need to work in India. And I was so fascinated with that idea. And I said like, okay. And I traveled with JP in the villages in India. So I got an opportunity to travel with Jayaprakash Narayan, George Fernandez, all these people in the villages of India, Chandrasekharji's Padyatra. And while traveling, I met my husband who was also in the movement, farmer, no higher education or anything, fell madly in love with him, married him, decided to leave Mumbai. I was teaching economics, left Mumbai, went to a small village, and I ended up finding it that it does not even have a toilets. And I was like, okay, the journey starts now. So that's how I ended up being in a village, Maswad in Satara district.
And I've gone to Chetna's place in Maswad, and what a difference she has made to that landscape. Not just her, but her husband and now her son, and the kind of work that they've done. And because it's so relevant to the subject that we are talking about, which is empowering Bharat, I do want to talk to you a little bit and just tell us a little bit about what has it been like for you from that time when there was no toilet to where you are seeing the place today? Because I have seen it with my own eyes, but I am assuming most people haven't. So just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, and actually Amol is not very far from that area, right, originally. So it's very interesting that the place which was not only just toilet, but for work, people had to go to the employment guarantee scheme work, where the only job women get was to break the stones, which means that there is no other job but to patthar todo or sadak banao, or aap rozi roti kamao. And now these women are doing digital banking. And it's not something which actually myself, I went and because that change has happened. Not at all. I will humbly say that. No, they were so aspirational that they never gave up. And I've shared this story so many times, but a lady who was like, working on the road, breaking stone, but she comes and tells me, I want to open a saving account. And banks are not opening my account because my money is very less. I want to save 3 rupees a day. And banks are saying me that you're not an affordable client. So I said, but she's not asking for loan. no subsidy, no grant from the government, hard-earned saving by breaking stone. And why she wants to save? Kantabai, she said that because I stay on the street and in summer it is 50 degrees Celsius. In monsoon, my family is on the street. I want to buy a tarpaulin sheet so that I can save and buy that. And so I thought, if banks are not opening the account, why not start the bank? That's what the idea came from women. And we applied for the banking license. You know what? I mean, I was very brave. I mean, I thought like, Bombay mein to jana hai, Reserve Bank mein to jana hai, kya hai badi baat, अंग्रेजी तो बात कर सकती हैं, और क्या? But our license was denied. Why? Because our women had a thumb impression. And Reserve Bank said, today Mr. Bansal, he knows very well. I would have loved to share again in front of him. I have shared with RBI in front of Mr. Reddy. But Reserve Bank said, we cannot issue a license to the bank whose promoting member are non-literate. We are in the country where these women could not go to the school, not because they didn't want to, but because there were no school. So women said that we are not non-literate because we didn't want, we always want to. And they said we'll learn to read and write again. And our literacy classes started. After 6 months, I didn't go alone. With me, 15 women accompanied. I had no idea what they are going to tell. I mean, I must have shared so many times. And these women went to we went to the cabin of the director of RBI, and these women said that we cannot read and write, but we can count. And they challenged, ask us to calculate the interest of any principal amount. If we fail, don't issue the license, but tell your officers to do it without calculator and see who can calculate faster. Needless to say, we got the banking license.
Wow.
So, you can imagine, right? This is the power they have. वो क्या नहीं सीख लेगी?
Yeah.
कुछ भी छोड़ेगी नहीं.
There are many bankers in the room and they're all thinking, what if Chetna was to ask us to do a calculation without our calculator? I empathize with you. But that is true. And Chetna, that's a really good segue into the question that I wanted to ask you. I mean, it's your style of leadership. And believe me, I've known Chetna for more than a decade and I've seen her in various stages and various capacities. And one of the things that's immensely impressive about her is the leadership. And today is not when we are talking about leadership, but it's when she says that it wasn't me, it was these women. That's kind of what her leadership style represents. But I remember when demonetization happened, one of the first people that I got a call from, I was at Paytm at the time, and one of the first people I got a call from was you. Because it was November and you have this festival in January in Prabha Devi. And this year also it's there. So everybody please do go there. It's amazing. And she was already thinking about how are we going to solve this problem when there will be no money and this morning Rajesh was talking about, the consumer journey and solving for the consumer journey. And then I remember in BKC we were sitting and talking about how are we going to solve this, because our product was a smartphone product and her constituents were not smartphone constituents at the time. And then we kept thinking of solutions, etc., and we found a solution. What I want to ask you is that whole digital literacy journey, because we're talking about empowering Bharat financially, one of the things that is happening is that, like, your women couldn't open an account at the time because banks did not find it remunerative. Sorry, bankers, but you don't find it remunerative to open account for that tarpaulin sheet, and we understand that. But the fintech companies can solve that problem, right? So how do you see that the role of the digital finance in creating that, empowering education, or whatever you may call it, awareness? Or I want you to talk a little bit at length about this.
Sure. Thanks, Shinjini. So, I would like to share with you that why we talk about like how Bharat is becoming digitalized, right? And I feel so proud of all the audience here that you all have found so many solutions on payments, digital transactions. And I mean, I find, Shinjini, that in India, one of the best solutions which have come to the last mile population, not waiting for years, right? इंग्लिश मीडियम स्कूल आने को कितने साल लग गए गांव में, हर छोटी बात को कितने साल लग गए, बट फिनटेक ट्रांजैक्शंस को सालों नहीं लगे, कितनी जल्दी आ गए. बट वन थिंग कि आई वुड जस्ट लाइक टू you to listen ki how did they feel empowered when the fintech came. And I'll give you an example. Our whole digital program is led by Rupali Shinde. She comes from a Dalit community. Her business is making musical instrument. She will be selling instruments in January at Ravindranatya Mandir. But she came to the bank and she said that, you know what, I have been like so many times, सबसे ज्यादा चीटेड कौन होगा, गरीब इंसान होता है ना, जो क्योंकि उनके पास प्रूफ नहीं रहेंगे, ये नहीं रहेगा. एंड शी सेड दैट व्हाई आई डिड द पेमेंट बट माय वेंडर सेड दैट कि आपने पैसा नहीं दिया है, आई हैड नो प्रूफ. And so she said, I've started using checks and that also is very difficult for me. But now, while doing this digital transaction, I get the history. And if I get the history, I have a proof to tell my vendor that on this date, this time, I have paid it. And that history is in front of me continuously on my cell phone. I was really surprised to listen that it's not just, it is, of course, somebody was saying like it's an easy transaction, but at the same time, it empowers you with your digital trajectory, history, which I'm not going to talk, loans वगैरह तो हो ही जाएगा, but for people like her, कि जो ये नहीं कह सकती है कि मेरे पास proof नहीं है. So I see in a very different way, particularly women get empowered. So one example I gave, and now Rupali Shinde, last year she got an award at the BRICS Bank because she spoke on digitalization and empowering women, and she was giving example to example how these women are empowering themselves with that. And she was invited in Shanghai, और वो चाइनीज रोबोटिक्स के सामने उसने अवार्ड लिया, रूपाली शिंदे ने ब्रिक्स में. That actually keeps me, Shinjini, that I see not only just aspirational, not only just demand, but to see, try everything. And another thing I would like to say, that you know what, when you work with these women, every excess they want to convert into wealth and control. So if you have access to banking, they will say, no, not only access, control on finance. I'll give you another example. When we were building our digital wallet, and we were saying that digital wallet, हमारी महिलाओं के पास एक पिन नंबर तो होगा, because आप अपना कंट्रोल करेंगी ना फाइनेंस, तो पिन नंबर रहना चाहिए. Our women said no pin number. Try कुछ और solution दिखाइए. We were saying like pin number बहुत जरूरी है. How would you have a control on your digital wallet? They said no. What about biometric? We thought great idea. Why don't we try? And we tried that. And we did a pilot. And when we were doing a pilot with PIN number, they were using biometric to open their digital wallet. You know what they said? मेरा PIN number तो कोई भी मुझे मार के ये करके चुरा ले सकता है, मेरा अंगूठा तो कोई नहीं चुरा सकता है ना, राइट? एंड यही अंगूठा, मतलब जिसके लिए उनको लोन, अरे लाइसेंस के लिए नकारा गया था, वही अंगूठे से आप पूरी डिजिटल वॉलेट खोल सकती हैं, स्कूल में नहीं गई हैं. So this is the power actually, and I see that it's not only in fintech, but वो भी मैं कहती हूँ, it's not in fintech, and as you have, we can carry on, but it's also in other areas, which I'll come to you later.
Sure. And what are the challenges, Chetna? Because you've also seen this space for a long time, right now. So what do you think has happened in terms of empowering people? And where do you think the challenges lie? Right outside, we were talking about, like gold is a great saving product for these women, but also it loses value in many ways. And so where do you think the barriers still exist?
So the one biggest barrier I always say, and in the subject also, it was educating and empowering Bharat, right? And I told Shinjini it should be like empowering Bharat, but educating India. Because supply side is India, right? So the challenge I many times feel is that, of course, lot of great things have been done, but I do see that how much are we listening to our last mile population or our client, what they exactly want. And while saying that, I would just like to narrate a very simple one example that during COVID, सब कुछ बंद था, बट गांव में खेती में लॉकडाउन नहीं था, लोग तो खेत पे जा रहे थे, लॉकडाउन नहीं था खेती में, इसलिए हम लोगों को अनाज तो मिला, नहीं तो वो भी नहीं मिलता खाने को, राइट? और उस वक्त everything was closed. Women found out the ways how they are going to sell their vegetables. All these street vendors, most of them are women. They did on WhatsApp group, they sold it. But one thing didn't happen, and that was buying and selling animals. Yeah. Animals market nahi bhare na. WhatsApp pe baki sab kuch hua. So then there are so many farmers or people who want to buy animals and sell animals. So we had paravets, goat paravet, who provides insemination, vaccination. They carry nitrogen box, go on two-wheeler and provide those services. And they said कि अरे animal market भर ही नहीं रहा है, किसी को खरीदना है, बेचना है. And one of our lady, she started animal selling digital platform on WhatsApp. And people started sending the pictures of animals which they want to buy or sell. In a challenge, what I'm trying to say is, we don't understand exactly what is the demand at a grassroots level. Before that, we design a solution. It is so important. And if you just Google, there is only one digital platform which does buying and selling animals. There are hundreds of such things, which, because our rural economy is so fragmented, so many different things are required, and there is so much of scope for that. So I do think that even if we are in Mumbai, even if we are in Gurgaon, where the major tech companies are, right? Bangalore, we need to understand Bharat very well. It's vibrant. It's innovative. And as you talked about gold thing, right? I mean, I just would say that even is Diwali pe, we have bought, our women save in gold, right? Why would women save in gold? Because जहां फाइनेंशियल इंक्लूजन नहीं रहेगा ना, वहां महिलाएं गोल्ड में ही सेव करेगी. Number one. And then second, where Lakshmi, I mean, I'm just saying that women want control on their finance and assets, right? सबसे आसान गोल्ड है, वो बहुत वाइज है. They are very wise. How can I have control? So I do think it is very important to understand these nuances and understand the plight of the people. Not plight in the sense of like bechare hai, but we can easily find the solutions. Understand that. I think so. Challenge is more with India than Bharat.
I think we started this day on that same note of, Rajesh talking about how when he wanted to know about Kisan credit card journey, he was given 4 boxes. And then when he got into it, it was a complete maze. And I think what Chetna is saying is exactly the same thing. How much do we make that effort to understand what problem are we solving for? And I'm going to ask you probably a last question, because we'll take more. I want to ask you a few quick questions as well. But this one is about, how do you see the role of different people in the ecosystem, public sector, private sector? Like on the one hand, you have, SEBI has Mahendra Singh Dhoni talking about mutual funds. RBI has Amitabh Bachchan talking about financial fraud. So there is a lot of education and literacy that's also happening, right? And then there are NGOs, there are influencers on social media. And then there are participants, which are banks, like people like us, who decided that we will build an execution platform and not just an awareness platform. But how do you see the role of all these different people coming together or changing in the future? Because people might benefit from understanding that, especially with reference to, clients, because that serving Bharat digitally is still the biggest opportunity that we have in this country, right? Because manufacturing financial products, I think this country, given the regulation, is at a fairly high level, right? And the talent, I think the kind of talent we have, the kind of technology and regulation we are very good at manufacturing. It's the distribution to that last mile which is the problem. So how do you see these role of different people in that ecosystem?
So actually, Shinjini, first of all, there is lot of role. I mean, in the sense, apart from the banking also and apart from the fintech also, like, when you talked about digital financial literacy, or we were just discussing about Salt app, right? And in that way, one thing I've seen that if you go to Bharat, the one thing is very common is the cash flows are very interesting. Bharat में monthly cash flow है ही नहीं ना. Either it is daily cash flow or weekly cash flow. And everybody wants to, like, I see our women, they want to save daily, save weekly, repay daily, repay weekly, in that sense. And I always feel, and I just told Shinjini before coming inside, that why can't our women are saving, say, 100 rupees. But जरूरी नहीं है कि वो सेव ही करना चाहती है, पर उस 100 रुपये में से वो 5 रुपये इन्वेस्ट करना चाहती है, right? So I find it very fascinating that how do we operate at micro level, all these stakeholders, and find these micro solutions. That is one. And second, just very briefly, I'll say कि another thing that, see, I'll give you more examples. I mean, I see postal department every year. Everywhere, postal bank bhi ho gaya, but they have premises, they have vehicles, they have so much of assets which can be used for so many things, like women who are producing. India is fragmented in rural India. We actually did the partnership during COVID with postal department that you will aggregate all the non-perishable and we take care of logistics to give the products to different areas. Now, postman is there, postal department is there, offices are there, और ऐसे ही पड़ा हुआ है बहुत कुछ. Why can't we use that? And I think there is such a big role. And I'm just not talking about only e-commerce or all that, but I'm just saying that lot of women, in this whole ecosystem, another example I would like to give. When we were talking about when you were at Paytm, how can we digitize this weekly markets, right? Yeah. We were like thinking if we can do that during demonetization also. Weekly markets hai. Now, a lady who is sitting and selling in weekly market, if she catches herself, because uski jagah to fix hai, if she has that Google appearance on Google Map, because she does not have a permanent shop, but she does the regular business for years and it goes for second generation. So if we have a more innovation and see that how we can create these spaces, which are their spaces, not they are owning the asset, but they are doing that business, which gives a proof, and then they can get an access to working capital access. So I'm just like, I don't want to go on and on, but I feel that all the stakeholders in this ecosystem need to have a lens and have a journey with these communities, and the solutions we will find will be like not only across country, but across world for so many people.
Yeah, which is true because, when you hear about stories from Africa and these weekly, how they have solved this problem of daily saving, weekly saving, there are examples to be learned, right? Similarly, from India, there are examples to be learned. And I wanted to ask you, but, you tend to you always have that passion and you don't tend to give up. Is there any moment when you feel like, oh my God, this problem is too big. I'm done with this. Have you ever felt like that?
I feel such moment, and Shinjini, you said you tell this example today, so I'm going to generally, I shy away from sharing this example. Those moments come in a very different way. And I'll tell you one moment of that there was long back, it was in 2009, 7 people from all over the world were invited to Seattle who were in microfinance, and microcredit became a very attractive thing globally. And so I was one of them to be invited with Vijay Mahajan and everybody. And I mean, I had got disconnected from big cities and newspaper, everything. Internet was not that great at those time. And so we were invited by Bill Gates, and like talking and sharing our experience about savings and everything. I was invited for that. And I was talking about gold loan product. And I was telling that, our women save in gold. And Bill Gates was there and he was saying, like, is it a smart way of doing and saving in gold? So I said, yeah, I mean, it came like promptly that, women in village in India, she knows the price of gold every day. But she won't be able to know the price of Microsoft shares. So isn't it? And वो ऐसे ही निकल गया मुझसे, and I felt very bad also कि अरे कहा. So there was one old guy who was clapping very loudly and said, Chetna, you made a point. And I asked Vijay Mahajan, who is that guy? And then Vijay Mahajan told that guy that Chetna is asking, who is that guy? And he was Warren Buffett. Can you imagine? And mujhe such moment, I feel that it is so important, and why I'm here is to tell those people that how our women are so smart कि उनको अपना पैसा बर्बाद नहीं करना है, उनको अपने कंट्रोल में रखना है. So I see that continuously I get energized with these women. उनके पास, they don't complain. They find the solutions, not only that, but they get the wisdom to teach other people. I am getting wisdom from these women. So it keeps me going, Shinjini.
And you keep me going because you talk about it. So I am very privileged to have a lot of this, optimism by osmosis, because I know people like Chetna. And one of the things that I think, I've been to her house and I've seen the work that Vijay and you do. And, he's the quiet one and he does such a powerhouse. He does so much work. But you have done something immensely powerful by taking this wisdom that you are gaining from there to, rooms like this, to people like me, to, Warren Buffett. And that, I think, has played a very critical role in putting this subject on the map. And I think we are all very thankful to you for that. You're actually my inspiration behind building SALT. So I really do think that you will inspire a lot more people as we go along. And thank you for that. We are up with our time, but I'm assuming we can take some questions, right? Okay, so we will take a few questions and then beech mein then I can ask you something if I... Anybody with questions? Otherwise, I can just go on. Okay, everybody's waiting for the drinks? Okay, perfect. So my question, Chetna, here that I had written was that... So one of the things that you have done, you've been a brand ambassador on this subject, right? And how important do you think is that to do? Because and I'm sorry, but this conversation has become a lot about gender and finance also, because both of us work in that space of gender and finance. And there are a lot of misconceptions about Bharat and how Bharat thinks, and about women and how women think about financial services and financial products. And because all of us are in that business, I want you to talk a little bit about number literacy versus, like, what do you think is going to work? If we were to solve this, if we were to solve for financially empowering the billion plus people in this country, what would be that magic formula? What do we need to know? A few things. Like, do you think it's very important that everybody has to build apps in all different languages? How important is that? What do you think is important, most important, top 2-3 things?
First thing I would just like to say that one is most of the people are having cell phone, but smartphone will be very, very important, because access to that piece gives me an access to knowledge. And I, at least in southern part of India or Maharashtra, you can see that it's not a one household, one cell phone. It is not there. And in our case, actually, our women were very clear that एक घर एक गैस ठीक है, ये सब ठीक है, पर एक घर एक phone ठीक नहीं है, वो अलग. And again, I am just before giving what is required or what will work, I will tell you what has not worked also. Like Jan Dhan account has worked, 56% of women are having Jandan account. We are proud of it. And we are not talking about zero balance account. It has worked. Transactions are happening. Ujjwala Gas has worked. But in spite of that, women are having account. Why? Because they say that we want a control on finance. So I think that is very, very important, that not just access, but control on finance. Control. That is one, as I said, smartphone. The second is that, which is so important. And coming to the language, I would say, Shinjini, that it's very different. People don't care about the language. Younger people want to learn English, know English, want to operate in English. And it's not that is a barrier, I think. Language is not a barrier. Agar language barrier hota na, तो इतने सारे लोग ऑफ कोर्स मराठी में भी टाइप कर सकते हैं, हिंदी में भी कर सकते हैं, पर नंबर्स तो सबको इंग्लिश में ही आता है. इनफैक्ट आवर एक्सपीरियंस इज टोटली वेरी डिफरेंट. व्हेन वी डू अ मराठी नंबर्स ऑन अ पासबुक, women will say English numbers. Yeah. So it's
that is really cool, because that is same with my experience also, that English, I was at a conference last week, and we were talking about education and educating the billions, etc. Not financial education, but just general. And one of the insights I had, and I want to share with the audience, is that somebody said that they have these English medium schools all over India, and why are people not teaching in their mother tongue? And I also used to believe, why are people not teaching in the mother tongue? But this person said two things. One is that it's aspiration, that they want to learn English. But the second practical thing is that in reality, you don't find teachers in these schools who teach in English. So the school is called an English medium school, but the teacher finds a way to come in, and because the children come from families where they don't speak English, so the teacher finds a way to speak a language which has smattering of English, but is actually their native language. So he says, don't think that these are English medium schools. These are actually schools where where aspirationally they will get to English, but they don't have a communication barrier because they don't come from an English background. And that was quite an insight for me to understand that same thing is happening in finance, right? People, when they go to apps, so many people are doing shopping on apps, right? Because they see value, right? If they're getting a discount on Amazon or Myntra, they're able to actually navigate. So navigation, I think, is more important than language itself, because people don't read to navigate. And the other statistic that has been astounding for me to discover since my journey, I don't know if you have read this, that WhatsApp traffic in India, 60% of it is on voice. So people record messages and send. So there are many tools and options available for us to use for that digital literacy and for that education. I think it is for us to actually go ahead and win this and do this. If there are no questions, I think I'll close. But your last chance, no questions. Everybody wants to drink? Okay. Okay, sorry. There's one lady here who wants to ask a question. Please go ahead.
Sure. Firstly, it's a very inspiring story of how you've built this bank. I wanted to understand now, from your customers being stone breakers, how did you get staff to start a business? Like, how is that operationally, executionally,
Very good question.
Very good question, actually. You had a question in your questions also. In the beginning, now we have around 270 crore of working capital, and cumulatively we have landed more than 560 crores. In the beginning, I used to think that I will not get the staff and get somebody from Mumbai, and I did that also. But जब वहाँ मुंबई के लोग वहाँ के रहेंगे, it didn't work out. And every time I would call RBI कि अब यहाँ हमको कोई आदमी भेज दो. And then RBI would say that, didn't you realize when you were setting up the bank? Now you are telling us. But then I said, you didn't realize when you were giving us the license? हम लोग इतने गांव में बैंक चला रहे हैं तो लोग कैसे मिलेंगे? Nothing doing. Sub compliances, returns, everything, right? But it was always a local community. I tell you, हमारे जो first cashier was not even a graduate. She was not even a graduate. And now, banks have to trade in bond market, right? We are sitting in Maswar. And we don't have our treasury in Mumbai, and it is not even a block place. It is not even a block headquarter. But our treasury is also going on, and I am so proud of my chief investment officer. She never comes and say that ये bond बेचना है और अभी side पे कुछ नहीं दिख रहा है. That is number one. She has never made losses in trading in bonds. Imagine. So what I say when I say that, what I mean is कि गांव में जो लोग रहते हैं ना, एक stability रहती है उनमें. Time लगता है. It takes time. So my totally staff is local from that area only. उसमें से कुछ ऐसी महिलाएं हैं जो पहले बॉम्बे में प्राइमरी एजुकेशन हो चुका था, मैरिड एंड केम टू द विलेज एंड दे जॉइन, तो वो है. बट एट द सेम टाइम दैट इज वन. सेकेंड इज दैट लॉट ऑफ कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग वॉज रिक्वायर्ड. वन थिंग वी डिड, रेगुलेटर को ही बुलाओ, इनको सिखाओ, उनको ट्रेनिंग दो. वी डिड अ पार्टनरशिप विद आरबीआई ओनली. आप लोग ही हमारे स्टाफ को ट्रेनिंग दो, एंड इट इज गोइंग ऑन इवन नाउ. So the College of Agriculture Banking CAP Pune RBI, they come and they train our staff, and RBI tells that operationally we cannot do because hum log nahi. So then we say okay, but then we get the bankers to train, but it is all local and it takes time. But then once they are stable, retention बहुत कम है. We don't have attrition at all, very honestly.
Also, that helps you build the culture, right? Because that stability and the fact that Chetna is sitting here with us and smiling is because she has peace of mind that her bond trader doesn't have a fat finger. So really wonderful. What a conversation. I think there is a lot more that we can unpack, but we are out of time. And thank you so much, Amol, for having me on stage with Chetna, because I've always wanted to do this. So I've really had fun, and I'm sure
It's always fun with you, Shinjini.
Yes. So thank you so much.